Do you remember the first time you picked up a brush?
Oh my gosh. Pretty young. Child, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah?
Yeah, we painted in where we had go for summer. The sun sets right in front of the window, so we would paint. At night, we'd paint the sunset.
Did you know that you had a special connection with art?
No.
Did you just like painting?
Yeah, I mean, we just kind of did it every night, my brother and I. And yeah, it was fun.
And then what happened? Like, how did you get into it professionally?
You know what, I did it. I went to art school in France at a point.
Oh.
And I didn't care for it at all. I didn't like being told how to draw a line and so on and so forth. Like, I couldn't stand it, actually.
Okay.
So I quit after a couple of months. And then I started to think, you know what, it's all fun and games, but I don't want to be a starving artist. I'm not doing this. And so I went on to pursue wine tasting as a business, sommelier. Then I was a helicopter pilot and some other things here and there. And then I got really sick with extreme chronic fatigue syndrome before it was really recognized as anything. And the only thing I could do was paint. Like, I basically could barely get off a sofa for 3 years.
So all you could do was paint during that period. What were you painting?
I had done a certain number of fairly hardcore expeditions, high Arctic ski expeditions, kayaking, so on, and I would paint memories of those trips. And I couldn't really work. I couldn't really do anything else. And at that time, it became an entire inner journey. I ended up with an extraordinary doctor in New York, and he taught me mind, body, spirit, and he saved my life without question. Physically, he's an extraordinary doctor. And that's really changed a lot about my thinking. And I realized that the art is what I was supposed to do from the beginning.
And then did you continue painting after that time?
Yeah, and I kept going.
So what changed in your actual artwork from what you were painting then? And I know today we're going to talk about a lot of the different things you paint. So I want to hear a little bit about that journey.
So in the beginning, I was painting, for example, flowers that I saw or icebergs from Arctic expeditions. And as I started to shift, then I was no longer interested in those, call it real things or figurative. I became more and more interested in the energy.
So I want to learn about energy and vibes from you, Candace.
Well, everything's energy. And the deeper the study goes, you start to see that, for example, even colors are energy. Colors are based on physics, they're wavelengths. Colors relate to parts of the body, again, wavelengths of the organs. It's all vibration.
So when you choose a color, because that's a great keyword for what we're going to talk about today, so is it based on a vibration that you're personally feeling at that time?
I work 2 ways. One, it's very channeled. I'm guided by my higher self, I would say, what colors to use. So for example, let's say I'm painting an Arctic landscape.
Yeah.
I love ice and snow, but that particular painting I'm doing, if I'm thinking about the emotional impact of what was going on that day and that particular memory, maybe it was a very emotional time. I might paint that in a lot of tones of orange, which relate to emotion, and name it Arctic iceberg. And people are going to, they don't understand.
Yeah.
But the point is that I'm actually interested in the emotional impact of what I was going through at that time. That's my connection. So then I choose that color.
So when you actually mentioned channeling, are you channeling, so you talked about, your higher self or your inner being or your soul, whatever you want to call it. You can find a million different meanings on YouTube. Are you channeling your own, or do you actually feel energy from people around you?
Yeah, I'm what's called clairsentient, so I feel things, I know things, I'm clairaudio, I'm clairvisual, so I get information whatever is coming. Now, it's not all the time.
Okay.
I might be sitting with you and not really getting anything right now. And later tonight I might go home and all of a sudden I'll get some big hit for Christina. Oh my gosh, here's what, she should be doing this for a business, or, you know, that's a dumb excuse, but it doesn't come how I think a lot of people might think it comes. It's not on demand. I can plug in and sometimes get information right away. When I'm painting, I have to be connected emotionally to what I'm painting, or it's a waste of, dare I say, time and paint. It's not going to work.
Okay.
I literally need that emotional connection to whatever went on in order to create the piece.
Are you in a meditative state
Yeah.
when you're doing that? You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why
it's not conscious at all.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking a line here, a line there, yellow here, black there, la la.
Okay.
No, it's totally conscious, or subconscious. It just flows, boom, boom, boom. Can take me 5 minutes, 5 hours. I have no idea of time. And when the piece is done, it's done. I look at my wall. Oh, whoa. Okay, it was 5 hours, right? Or 2 hours, or I have no concept of any of that. I'm in an altered state,
Right.
and that's how I create.
So some of the big pieces, we're sitting in your Toronto studio right now. We have beautiful pieces around us here that you're going to describe to us. But for example, I feel very drawn to the orange piece that's behind me. So something like that, how long would that take you to make?
That one took me, I don't actually remember, but I think it was a couple of hours.
A couple of hours. So that, let's talk about that since I brought that up, because if you look close, there's a lot of really beautiful details in that perhaps somebody wouldn't be able to see from a distance. So let's talk about those colors and that painting.
So the orange is representative of the second chakra,
Okay.
which is just below the belly button, and that is known as your sacral chakra. It's emotional,
Okay.
sexual, creativity. And often that is the same energy. The sexual and the creativity is the same energy.
Oh, interesting.
And this actually was inspired by a friend of mine who spends a lot of time in volcanoes. And this was from a lava lake that he was on the spot filming and so on, and I was immediately, I just made some immediate connection. I very rarely work from someone else's work.
Okay.
But at that meeting that night, he did a presentation, and I just said, I need some of those photographs, close up of the lava. And because it spoke to me so loudly, I don't know why, it just did, something really clicked. That's why I just had to get to my studio the next day and boom. I actually did 3 of them. The other 2 have sold as a pair. This is the third. The other 2 are a bit smaller.
Okay.
But if I remember, I think I might have done them all the same day.
All 3?
Yeah.
So when I was looking at it closely, it looked like some kind of diamond pieces.
Yes, I put crystals in the work.
Oh,
That's
it's crystal.
channeled.
Okay.
I have connection with, I'll say, my crystal diva. And she kind of comes in and says, 10 of this, 6 of that, gotta go. She's always in a rush. I hear this, I hear it through my ears, but I also sort of know it. It's a bit hard to explain. And so I have a lot of crystals and gemstones here that they've been washed and they're programmed when I put them in the work. And it's not about seeing them visually, it's about the vibration that they carry.
Oh, okay.
And they will continue, once they're awakened and programmed, they will radiate that energy forever.
Oh, okay.
So the paintings, not only is the color vibrating its energy, which connects to that part of your body that we discussed, but the gemstones are also radiating their healing energy. And there's a lot of other quantum energetics that I put in the pieces, but the paintings are healing pieces. They will continue to constantly vibrate out the energies, resonate the energies.
Okay. So you have a lot of beautiful colors in this space. Where should we have a painting like that with those bright colors? Because for everybody watching, when I walked in the room, I thought, okay, I feel differently when I'm staring at this painting. I can't have that, for example, in certain places of my home. Is there an ideal place or like an ideal personality that this would be good for?
Well, orange is a very powerful color. It's a very happy color.
Okay.
Personally, I would not have that in my bedroom,
Okay.
but I have had men clients come in and just lose it.
Okay.
Because that's exactly what they wish they had in their bedroom.
Okay, I gotcha.
Right? But personally for me, it's way too high energy. I wouldn't sleep the whole night. I actually have bedroom walls that are midnight blue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of the midnight blue, directly behind you, I feel very drawn to that. I feel like that's very calming for me. Am I on the right path with that?
This really would be more of a turquoise, which is 5th chakra, which is about communication. It's your throat chakra.
Oh, okay.
So communication can be, you know, throat, speaking, singing, writing, artistic. It can be all forms of communication, but it is here, this part of your body.
Okay.
And I also believe it depends a lot on each individual. Yes, that is your throat chakra. That's the color that vibrates with the organs here. Okay. Your thymus, your thyroid, your jaw, your tongue, your teeth, all of this area. But I also, for me, these colors of blue are my colors.
Your colors, okay. So basically you're a creative person, you want something creative in your space while you're writing or doing something creative. That would be a good idea to have something like that in your space.
Or if your business is communication in your office, your whole team will be being energized by this painting.
Being energized.
And I use in this painting, there's certain sort of swirls, which would be Fibonacci swirls, which are sacred geometrical shapes as well. And so there's a lot going on in these paintings. There's also something called absolute scalar waves, which are pure light. They are healing waves of energy that actually heal on demand. So I brought them in as well. There's zero pointing. There's a lot of stuff in every one of these paintings.
Okay, so is that why they're so healing?
Yes.
Okay, so since you mentioned chakras and healing, I mean, a lot of us do yoga and the teacher will mention it, but a lot of that knowledge for me anyway is very superficial. So take us through the chakras and the colors, if you can, sort of like you talked about the blue being communication, the orange is more emotional. Orange and red is emotional?
No, red is your root chakra. It's lower.
Okay.
And that is really known as your family of origin. Things that happened there is in your root chakra, your survival, your courage. It's a very fundamental chakra. Okay. And in the chakra, if you want, is like a Torah or a donut. And the outer rim is where all the programming lives. Okay. That you've been taught in school, your parents, all your old programming, what you think you should do, that lives in the outside rings of your chakras. Okay. And in the inside ring, if you think of a Torah or a donut, it's an empty space. Okay. That is where new ideas, new programming, new love, new life can occur. It's the outer ring that you want to clean off.
You want to clean off. So you're trying to have a baby. Should I have red in my room? One of Candace's red paintings to energize us. It's life.
Well, you might go back to the orange.
Oh, might go back to the orange. Okay.
Depends on what's going on.
Okay.
So the first is red, then second is the orange, emotional. Third, which is called solar plexus chakra around your belly button. That is yellow, color of the sun. It's your power, it's your you can do it. It's really, your action chakra.
Love that.
Green is heart. Green's about unity. Think of deep forest. That's why nature's so powerful for us, because the green is a unifying color for our beings.
So the forest green, though, like a dark green?
No, not too dark.
Okay.
There's a whole belief from ancient Egypt and people working today in biogeometry that have the firm belief with, I think, proof behind it. Dr. Karim is his name. He's done a lot of work for the Egyptian government. If it's too dark a green, it's called a negative green, and it can actually be a destructive force. Oh my goodness. And he believes extremely destructive force. So you would always want to, put in some light green, some higher harmonics. It's called, the Egyptians called the higher harmonics, of a lighter green, paler green, more vibrant green with yellow. So if you think of your heart chakra, yeah, I mean, I love the colors of forest, but you want some brighter greens as well. You don't want super dark green, because it could fall into that negative green category.
It's really interesting because the vast differences, right? From love to something that could be completely negative.
Opposite, yes,
right.
yes.
So we want to feel love in our home. We can have one of Candace's beautiful, bright green paintings, and we get that energy of harmony and love.
Yeah, and unity.
And unity.
It's a unifying force, and love is the unifying force on the planet.
Yeah. We could all use a little bit more of that.
Indeed.
So we're moving up. What
so
happens?
we're moving up, then we get to, well, it's called the higher heart, which is being seen now by more and more seers. It wasn't ever established in the Hindu Vedic system. They just named the 7 main. There's probably 108 actual chakras, but I actually work with 12 chakra system. But the main one that people know is 7. But there is one here called higher heart. It's usually a pink. Oh. And that is really just this beautiful, pure love. Then you're going up to throat. Throat chakra here, 5th. And we talked about that, a turquoisey color. Yeah. 6th chakra would be here, your 3rd eye, your seat of clairvoyance, of dreaming, imagination, and that is indigo. So quite dark blue, like a midnight blue. And then there's the 7th, which is your crown chakra. Now I see that as purple, some see it as white. The chakra that would connect with collective consciousness. So that's where all the flow of energy of information is.
So if I'm doing a headstand, what's happening?
Well, the flow of blood is going in there, can only help. But I mean, I'm sure that if you meditate, or sometimes you're daydreaming or whatever, and all of a sudden you start to know things that you know, maybe you're thinking of a friend of yours and you know something about her, and you're like, how'd I know that? Well, that's actually coming from the 7th chakra. You're just plugging into that collective sea of consciousness, if you want.
So when you mentioned the 3rd eye, you mentioned, I think, dreams?
Yeah, dreams, intuition, and your clair visual would come from here.
Clair visual. So yours obviously is in super mode, right? Because
it's a muscle.
It's a muscle. So do you sort of dream things and then remember them, and you're able to bring them into 3D reality via your paintings?
That's not, I mean, I could.
You could.
But I don't.
But
it's not normally quite how I work. I might dream of a painting that I'm going to be doing, but I don't bring that exact thing into the studio unless it's very clear. And then however it comes out, it comes out. Right? So I had one last week about using a particular color of blue that no longer exists on the Earth. It's from the star system of Sirius. And so I had a vision that I would do a big painting in those blues. So what the painting looks like, well, that remains to be seen. So the clairvoyant is more a way of being shown pictures, for example, for information that I want. I can see it as a movie. I'm doing healing with my paintings with horses, and the horses communicate through that chakra. They give me the images of what they want me to deal with. For example. So that's what 6 is. That's
a really interesting discussion, since you mentioned horses. So the horses communicate with you about what they want you to paint for them, color-wise and chakra-wise?
No, they communicate for healing. And I use the chakra paintings, not only healing horses, but also people. Not only if I held one up here and the vibration is going to you, but now the paintings are completely sentient. And they actually do a process where if I'm dealing with people and with horses, they enter into the body. This is, of course, telepathically. So that painting will enter into you. I just did a healing today. The painting presented quite late last night. I want to work with you. So I sent my client a picture of the image, and ideally, you know, sit with it for a bit of time, meditate with it a little bit, whatever, just letting you know this is who's come forth. So it was a green chakra, so that's heart. And a lot of stuff that came up today was about that. So with the horses, A lot of what I'm dealing with the horse's problems, I'm not a vet, I'm not trying to be, I'm not even interested. I go, they show me if there's a behavioral problem, it's usually past life, it's a lot of abuse. And so I help them work through that and free them from that. And what we're seeing is that their behavioral issues diminish almost immediately.
Okay, so you're talking about the horses now. So they have some behavioral issues. They're picking up the energy from your painting, and then immediately...
And from me.
And from you.
What I'm doing to them energetically.
Oh, okay.
And then ideally, if that's their main painting, and they say to me, I have a broken heart, I want the green chakra. Like, they tell me all this stuff.
Okay, okay.
So ideally, a few horses of one of the places that I've gone to, and I love the horses a lot, they've told me, and so we've hung them in their stalls. And it's been extremely beneficial to the horse because
behaviorally they calm down,
and health-wise.
And health-wise.
Because now these horses are very, very spoiled and lucky. They go out every day, no matter the weather. But so they're still in their stall, let's say 10 hours.
Okay.
Let's say fairly, maybe more, maybe less.
Okay.
But all the time they're just standing in that stall, they are being healed by the painting, the energetics of that painting coming down onto them.
Okay.
So ideally, every horse I'd ever met in my whole life would have one of those in their stall, because really, truly, it's not that fun a time, I wouldn't think, stuck in a stall if I were a horse, right?
Have you ever physically witnessed like immediate reaction from that animal, or are they shaking their head, or are they?
Oh yeah, no. The few times I've done it, the horses are crazy for the energy. It's
so
incredible.
They kind of go wild?
Oh, they come right to it. They're sniffing it, snuffling it, licking it, rolling their face, trying to eat it. They want the energy. And interestingly enough, for humans it's the same, but most people have their stories that interfere.
Sure.
So this can't be happening, or I don't believe it's a painting, or I can't be feeling that. Or I have one friend that came to the studio, and it was the most bizarre thing I'd ever seen. Okay. And he looked a bit like a king cobra. His body started to do this. And to a degree that I was mesmerized, because it kind of looked like his feet were nailed to the ground. He was leaning forward and back to such a degree, I thought, why isn't he falling over? And I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm not doing anything. I said, well, obviously you're doing something, because I never see, and he's a total dowsing rod for energy of the paintings.
And then what happened?
And particularly for the orange painting. Okay. He hadn't even gotten near that one. My God, I hate to think.
Okay.
This was just around the smaller round chakras.
Okay.
It was extraordinary.
So, like you mentioned, your friend that came in here.
Yes, yes.
And he was getting all these
Well, the interesting thing was, he said, oh, people have told me I have I've really got blocked chakras. I'm really not well. It's a really big problem. I said, are you joking? You're a complete dowsing rod for energy. You're my secret weapon. It's phenomenal. I wish all my clients would, get the energy to that degree, but the horses get it to that degree.
Wow. And then, for example, would the horse perform better if it's a racehorse, for example?
You would hope.
Okay.
Now, 2 examples that I'll just give you quickly. One was starving himself to death last winter. He's a jumper. He's a beautiful horse. He's a smart horse, highly sensitive horse. And his owner and he are very connected.
Okay.
And the owner had to go away for business for a month. And plus, for the winter months, where he lives, he doesn't have an indoor arena, so he has to move just around a corner to another farm with an indoor arena so he can train all winter. And this horse is, as I stated, very sensitive, and apparently that was a much bigger stable, a lot more action.
Okay.
And this horse stopped eating. So his owner came home a month later, he lost 400 pounds. Wow. The horse was a mess. And they panicked, they had in all these vets, all these people, they didn't know what to do. They finally decided to bring him back to his little barn that he was happy in. And still he was eating, but not great. And I came up around then, and I met all the horses. I like to go, and I said, introduce me to him. And he was out in the field, so I went and, how do you do? And big horse. He's about 17 and a half hands. He's huge. And so I just, how do you do, met him. And I left that day, and as soon as I got home, that horse started to communicate telepathically, saying, you've got to come back. You've got to help me. This is past life. You've got to help me. Okay. So back I went on the weekend, and he showed me. He showed me the pic. He said I was a war horse. And he said he specifically brought up World War I. And he said the blood, the noise, the guts, the screaming, the trauma. And he said, I got reactivated in that barn. Too much action, too much noise, and PTSD. And he literally went back to that World War I scene where his owner was killed. He showed me all of this. Wow. And so I have some energetic techniques that I did with him to help clear that lifetime and to restore that parallel life so that he would be free of that trauma. And as soon as I drove out of the driveway, he started to eat. And that was it. He hasn't looked back. He's been chowing down.
So that was just physical, something energetically, is it like a Reiki?
No, I'm not touching anybody.
Okay.
This is all telepathic energy flow.
You didn't even make this particular horse a painting, did you?
No, but he told me on day one he needed the orange painting. That was emotions.
Oh, okay.
And I knew that. And interestingly enough, I didn't, long and short is, I went out a couple of weeks ago to do a photo shoot with an equine photographer who has spent a lot of time in that barn and knew all the horses as well, so they knew her. And we were out in the field. Let's just see how it goes, very organic. And I brought out the orange painting, and that horse went crazy for it. And so did one of the other horses who had told me before he's a very social horse. He's kind of the clown. He would escape every night and go and visit his pals in their stalls. And they could see that from where from his horse poo everywhere. Yeah. He'd stopped here, he stopped to see you, and he stopped to see me. And he's a very funny horse. And he said to me, I'd like Gregorian chant at night. Could you arrange that for us in the barn? I mean, he really was quite comical. And he told me he liked the throat chakra. Okay. And when we were in the field, I had, they're 20-inch circles. I had the orange one facing and the turquoise one facing me. I just held it like that. And the one, Rossi, who wanted the turquoise one before, no, he wanted the orange one too. They both wanted that orange painting. And they were like little dogs on a string. They would have done anything. One on either side, these huge beings with their heads over my shoulders, like, let us at it, we want it. They were both trying to eat it and lick it and kiss it, and they literally were following me around the field. It was a riot. And when I turned and showed him the turquoise one, he didn't want it. And what had happened is one of his pals had died a couple of months before, his very close pal, and he was still grieving. And he didn't want the turquoise. He didn't want fun. He needed his emotions attended to. So that was really that was very strong to see that. I wasn't expecting him to react like that. And at the same time, there was another horse who was being slated to be put down in a few weeks for very bad arthritis, and which I didn't see any sign of. I couldn't even understand what they were talking about because the horse was fine. Okay. And everybody said, oh no, his arthritis is terrible. It's time for him to go down. The winter will be hard, all this stuff. And the horse was telling me, how dare she do this to me? The horse gave me this whole download in August, and I was really surprised. I mean, I didn't know the owner. I just go there and I work with the horses, whether I know the owner or not. As in this case, I had never met her. And he was very upset. And I was kind of a bit surprised. I didn't know what was going on. And so then moving right on until end of October, and there we were. And she had slated to have him put down. And I talked to the owner of the premises. I said, you can't. He's telling me he's fine. And long and short is she gave him a reprieve. And so that day there he was, because she had she's a vet, and she had some other vets come, and the vet said there's nothing wrong with this horse. Oh, wow. No arthritis. And I said, well, I have been working with him for 6 or 7 months. He's fine. And so I took the green heart paint, because he said to me he was shattered. He had a totally broken heart that she would even do this to him. They'd been together so long. And really interesting for me to see was in holding the green painting, the horse, it was way too strong for him in his condition. And he literally somehow was just 30 feet back. It was, I don't even know what he did. He didn't step back. He just kind of somehow jumped back. Okay. And I was so surprised because the painting's only 20 inches. Okay. And this great big animal, right? And he had to think about it. And I just stayed there kneeling, holding the painting, and eventually he came up in his own time and then smelt it and licked it and then got into the groove of that painting. But that was also a really big lesson.
Does this only work? I know people watching this are going to be curious if it can work on their pets. Does this only work with horses?
Oh, I'm sure it works on anything and everything. It's energetics.
It's
I mean, this is what I do with people.
Right.
But if I was healing you and you had a condition and I would specify to the energy coming in that it come at a pace that you can tolerate.
Okay.
As gently as you can absorb. I didn't think about it with the horses because so far it had all been this really positive reaction. I mean, the first horse I started with there, she was an ex-race horse. And I didn't know anything about her. I just went into the field and I'm brokenhearted, I'm bored, I miss the paparazzi, I'm lonely. And I'm like, who is this horse? I don't know a thing about you. And she said, I need the green chakra. I said, okay, and I brought them all, so we had that put in her stall. She is 100% different horse now.
Wow.
To the degree when I was there in August one day, I didn't recognize her in the paddock. There were a couple others with her, and I mistakenly thought it was one of the other mares. So she changed so much. She'd filled out, she was running around, she's meant to be lame. She wasn't lame. It was extraordinary.
So you said, you feel that they're calling you and you also feel like you're painting what they need you to paint. So how does somebody get a hold of you who's watching this right now? Do people literally contact you, or do you feel like pulled towards a certain area to go to? How does that work?
No, I mean, generally speaking, I'm a painter. And I do the big shows. I've done this for years.
Okay.
And it was only recently, about a year ago, I've started to do this energetic work for quite a while.
Okay.
But I've started to really do it seriously.
Okay.
And maybe about a year ago, in meditation, all of a sudden I was told, we want you to heal horses. And I just with the paintings are key.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get when you meditate.
No.
Right? It's amazing.
So I listened instead of saying wrong contact. I think you got a mistake here. And so that's very interesting work, but fundamentally I am a painter. I have collections in hospitals for their healing powers and so on. I mean, the work is about the paintings. They go into offices, they change the entire atmosphere of the office.
Okay.
Because they're constantly resonating. So, no, they would look me up, Candace Wilson Art Studio.
Okay, perfect.
Occasionally I am, as I was with the horses, I was directed to go to horses.
To the horses.
I was directed for the hospitals.
You would think the hospitals or any healing places would want your energetic paintings there. So talk to us a little bit about that. What have you made from them, and where can we see them?
I've done 8-piece chakra series, fairly large. Do you know, in between these two and some size like that. They're always hung together. They're much more powerful. And we have, in Toronto, we have Bridgepoint Hospital, St. Michael's Hospital, Toronto Western Hospital, the hyperbaric, one of the hyperbaric centers.
Okay.
Also the Canadian Ashram for Art of Living, which is in Quebec, and Peterborough Regional Hospital outside of Toronto.
Have people contacted you, or people in the hospital or sick people, and said, you know what, having that painting there really helped?
Yeah, I've had some really interesting feedback. It's not an easy thing to get, even from staff, because in the hospital affects everybody.
Yeah.
Visitors, staff, patients, everybody's affected by the paintings. And I have had doctors come and talk to me, albeit they're it's a bit out of their training, so they're very circumspect. They want to make sure nobody's listening. And they've all said about the same thing, 30, 35 minutes standing with the painting collection, I can take on the world. Really? When I got here, I was ready to fall on my face from exhaustion. And I stand here for 35 minutes, and I can take on the world.
That's what the doctors said.
Mm-hmm. I've had 3 or 4 doctors. That was in one day at one hospital. I was there touching up something I can't even remember, and they came up separately, making sure no one else was around, nobody could hear. It was sort of funny. And I have had a thank you note from a patient who Was in the hospital. I don't really know the circumstances at all. I think it was sort of an emergency situation he was in for quite a long time. And the hospital is such that it's an atrium shape that he could see the paintings a couple of stories down, but from his bed.
Okay.
And they came to him, I think he said he'd been there for a month, and they came and said they had to reoperate. And he said, unplug this bed, unplug me, take me down there. I need to see what I'm looking at. And each painting in the hospital has a very small little educational piece about what gemstones and a little bit how it could help heal.
Okay.
And this gentleman claimed that he realized that in seeing them from his bed, he'd been doing all that self-healing intuitively.
Okay.
And so when he read which each of the paintings was doing, he realized he'd already been doing that.
He'd already been doing that inner healing. It was interesting what you told me, going back to the physicians, what color were they looking at that gave them that energy?
Oh, I don't know. Because they're all hung together, and they wouldn't say that. They were just saying, generally speaking, the energy alone, of course, since there's 8 in a row or in one hallway or whatever, the energy is much stronger than one, or if you have one on each floor, it's an accumulation of energy.
So it is a good idea if in one person's home or in one studio, it is a good idea to have to have several paintings in different colors. Is that right?
Well, I mean, it depends what you believe, but the energy is definitely stronger, and then it's affecting all the different organs in your body.
Okay.
Because it's vibration, and this is quantum physics. This is science. This is not my idea.
Okay. So everyone at home, don't Google quantum physics just yet. So explain to us a little bit about that.
Well, as I stated earlier, the Vedics discovered this thousands of years ago in India, that the wavelength, the length of the wave, actually resonated with different parts of the body.
Okay.
So the color, so the blue, that particular color of blue resonates with these organs and so on and so forth, so that energy will impact the flow of energy, the clarity of the chakra, and improve your health. There's no question. And then you add the gemstones on top that are programmed and awakened using chimes. And again, am I chiming 2 times? Am I chiming 10? I'm told for this painting, for this particular gemstone, 5, 10, whatever. I just follow instructions.
For the painting. But if somebody wanted to see you for spiritual healing, I know you said it's not Reiki, you're not touching them.
No, I do. I prefer to do it on the phone.
Oh, you do it on the phone?
Because I don't need, and now so far, in every case, I know these people or I have met them.
Okay.
But I don't need to. And on the phone, then they can be in their environment, relaxed and calm, and I'm not touching them anyway. So it doesn't really make any difference. I could do the same with the animals as well. I happen to enjoy going out and meet the horses and see them, and the pleasure that it brings me, and the nourishment that it brings me spiritually. It's huge. The horses are great feeders of our soul.
If you're feeling down, I used to go to Riverdale Farms. We're filming in Toronto. Pet a horse. It's just something very magical.
Well, most animals are giving you a lot more than we are aware in most cases. There's an extraordinary energy exchange from the animals.
If somebody wanted to see one of your paintings or wanted to order something from you, let's talk about the way that works. And I also want to know about price point.
Yeah. First of all, people can contact me from my website, and they can phone, email, text. They're more than welcome to visit my studio.
Yeah.
My website is fairly comprehensive in terms of what's up painting-wise. Mm-hmm. And I have another site that I have a lot of paintings on in Paris called Singular.
Okay.
And a few others, Saatchi and so on and so forth. I have a certain online presence. If people, I do custom work.
Okay.
But I won't, you can't tell me you can say either the chakra color, or what do I need, or I want the energy of forest.
Okay.
But you can't say it has to look like this.
Got it.
Because that isn't happening.
Yeah, that would not make sense with anything that you've mentioned today. Yeah.
So people have often ordered chakra paintings, and they either say, give me what I need, or I really want a heart chakra, and then whatever, and of course, the intent is everything.
Okay.
In creation, intent is, well, I would say in life, it's the intent behind what you're doing. So if you wanted one, then I am I'm holding you in my heart and in the space when I create that. And whatever comes out, that's for you.
Oh, gotcha.
Again, I am not thinking this. Oh, Christina needs this and that, and this would help this, and oh, her eyes are weaker, maybe I should put... No. I think about you, and if you haven't stipulated which chakra, it'll come to me. Oh, she really needs...
Is it easier for you as an artist to meet the people? So if somebody's watching us now and says, oh, I really need something in my home, I don't know what it is. Is it easier if they come down here and you kind of feel their energy, or can you just do it vibrationally, sort of?
Well, because they're going to be living with the piece,
yeah,
and the art is very visual. You have to like what you're looking at.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter about the vibration. If you hate the look, it's not going to work, because you are going to be looking at it.
Yeah.
So of course they need to come. Now, what often happens now, because I have a lot of work to show, I will be led. You know, you can't show 1,000 paintings at once. People are going to freak out.
Yeah.
So ideally you show 8 or 10, perhaps, if they don't really know what they want. But again, I'm guided. Show this, show that, show this one, big, small, whatever. I'm told which paintings to bring out to show.
Okay, Candace. So if I wanted to buy one of your beautiful paintings, or everybody, you know, watching us, talk to us a little bit about the price point, because from what we spoke about earlier, I think there really is something for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I would think there is. I believe the chakra paintings really heal and really help people. So I kept this little size here, which is an 8-inch circle, is $150.
Canadian.
Canadian.
Yeah. That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And you've got the stone in there.
Yes. So they have stones. They have, these are the absolute scalar waves, this what's called impasto, the thickness, and the lines coming. This texture here is seashells that I've collected on expeditions, some of them in Sahara, wherever, that are then what's called zero pointed in an energy machine I have in the corner.
Okay.
And so their 0 point energy is a state of perfect balance.
Oh.
And organic materials that have been 0 pointed will hold that energy forever. So that's in there as well.
Was this the perfect shade of green we mentioned before?
Well, do you see there's a whole tonality of green.
Okay.
So what you don't want is kind of a dark black green that's not a vibrant kind of green.
Okay.
That could be what would be termed in ancient Egyptian as the negative green.
Okay. Okay. So I see another one behind you that I'd love to.
Oh, this little,
have.
here's a little orange one, and this too, also 150. And what you see, what I've done here is it has a silver, the edge is silver, which is protection.
Oh, we need this. I need this.
And it's underpainted with the you can see a little bit of purple. You couldn't see so much in the green. The underpainting purple is a color that the Egyptians called the higher harmonics of divine love. Oh. That it carried that vibration. And they also knew it as the color of the coming dawn, which in the Sahara it is this beautiful purple light.
Yeah, I feel very drawn to this one.
And I'm also, under the purple, I am painting in gold ancient Egyptian healing symbols.
So under this purple there
Under the purple, so first layer is ancient Egyptian healing symbols in gold, which carries the frequency, that's the higher harmonics of divine will.
Oh, interesting.
First I do that, and then the purple, divine love, and then I do the chakra on top.
So I know
they're supercharged.
They're supercharged, and like I definitely feel this one. And so I know crystals, just, you know, having filmed a lot in Greece, I have spoken to a lot of people that work with healing with crystals. Tell us a little bit about what the crystal actually does healing wise, because I've seen them in your studio too.
It depends on the stone.
Oh.
Every stone carries its own frequency and its own raison d'être. It has been created for a certain healing.
Okay.
And so I'm guided to, you know, if I was custom making yours, I would be guided to put in the stones that you need. And I used to question in the beginning because I couldn't believe it could be that easy. And I have an encyclopedia of stones and their spiritual meaning and what they're healing, so on and so forth. And then I realized it was always bang on, so I just, okay.
That's incredible.
And when I'm doing these, which are more, I don't want to call them generic, but they are, because they weren't custom created.
Okay.
They are normally stones that will benefit most people across the board, in a sense.
And so how long would something like this take you?
Well, it's done in different layers, so that's a bit, you know, hours-wise, I don't know, I'm not.
You don't know again?
No, I mean, you know, the underpainting, it's a very small piece, so the underpainting, the gold goes pretty fast, then it has to dry for a couple of days, and then, because it's oil paint that I'm using, so then the purple has to dry, so that's a few more days or a week or whatever, and then the orange on top.
There's a lot of love and energy that goes into this painting. These are, I mean, I wish you guys could see them from close. Actually, you can. You can visit Candace here in Toronto. So we talked about the price range. So these ones are about $150.
Yeah, they're $150.
And your range goes up to?
$20,000.
Okay, is it the large, very large canvas?
You know, for example, 3 feet by 8 feet.
Okay.
Something like that. Right. It's around 20.
It's your time, it's the amount of space, the canvas, and so forth.
And of course.
And then you've got ones in between.
And oil paints of pure color they're expensive. I mean, all of these things go in it.
Right.
And the time, and the learning, and the layers. It isn't, you know, you say how long does it take to make the painting? Well, it's taken my whole life, in essence.
Yeah, yeah.
I've done a lot of things in my life. I've learned a lot of things, and all of that energy and love goes into the piece.
I believe that 100%. This is all the experience, love, and energy. And so, you know, you don't want to spend 150, but you don't want to spend 20,000. There's something in between.
Oh, there's everything. The chakra paintings, as I said, I've really tried to keep them inexpensive.
Yeah.
The largest ones I'm doing now, unless they're custom ordered where I need to have well, in those cases, they're wooden panels. They're no longer canvas, but the canvas one's the biggest is a 20-inch.
Okay.
And that is $500.
Well worth it to have in your space.
Yeah, and those are the sizes that I have for the horses and for their individual stalls.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it seems like a good size. It doesn't need to be, you know, they're so powerful. Of course, the bigger the piece, the more power.
Right.
But it isn't necessary.
So if you want to hear or see more of Candace, you hop onto her website. Thank you, Candace, for being my guest today.
Total pleasure.
It was an absolute pleasure for me as well because I learned so much and more to come. I think we're going to see you again here.
Great. Thank you so much, Christine.